July 9th, public hearing for the City of Tampa's Architectural Review Commission to order. Welcome, everyone. I'm Ted Kempton, Chair of the Commission. If you're here to present a project, you have limited time to make your presentation, so we suggest being thorough but concise. When coming to the microphone, you will need to identify yourself and your relationship to the project. The commissioners will not ask any questions during your presentation. Your project should be presented in the following order: site plan, elevations, architectural details, and wall sections. The staff will then present their report. We will ask for public comment. Please state and spell your name clearly if you're here to speak for or against a project. Your time will be limited to 3 minutes, so take some time now to summarize your comments because 3 minutes goes by very quickly. Following public comment, the commissioners will ask questions in the same order as the presentation. Next, the applicant will have 5 minutes for rebuttal. The public hearing will then be closed. After the public hearing is closed, no further testimony can be given. The commissioners will then discuss the case and will make their decision based on the following: Chapter 27 of the City Code of Ordinances, the design guidelines, the Secretary of Interior standards, Historic Preservation Development Review Committee comments, and the testimony given at the public hearing. The ARC can only act on items that are within our specific jurisdictional responsibility. Owner agents are independently responsible to obtain any appropriate permits and or approvals. If you haven't already done so, please silence cell phones. I'll start on my left with introductions of commissioners.
Brian Hammond, architect.
John Prokop, I practice architecture.
Tim Jones, contractor.
Okay, and then we also have Ron Vila, Alexis Guzman from staff, as well as Dana Crosby Collier, our attorney.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm staff with Historic Preservation. At this time, moving down the agenda, we'll have Dana address the board.
Good evening. I would like to ask if any member has a conflict of interest with any item on the agenda tonight.
I do not.
Okay, and has any member had ex parte communication regarding any item on the agenda this evening?
I have not.
Thank you.
Very good. At this time, we have one continuation reflected on the agenda, which is ARC-25-0000166 for the address of 509 East Sparkman Avenue. This request was from the agent to be continued to the Monday, September 8th, 2025 public hearing at 5:30 p.m. And if we could get a motion, please.
I move to continue ARC 25-0000166 at 509 East Sparkman Avenue to the Monday, September 8th, 2025 public hearing at 5:30 p.m.
I second.
Okay, we have a motion. Seeing no discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes.
Thank you. At this time, we're going to do the swearing. Ms. Guzman will swear in everybody that wishes to testify. Anybody in the public, please stand up and raise your right hand to be sworn in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you provide today is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Our agenda item this evening is ARC-25-0000155. This is for the address of 1806 West Bristol Avenue. This is in the Hyde Park Historic District. There are two structures on that site currently. There's a non-contributing structure, that is the primary structure, and then they have a contributing structure, the accessory structure that dates back to 1920. The underlying zoning is RS50. The request this evening is for a certificate of appropriateness for new construction for a 2-story single-family residence with site improvements. This request has come in front of the board. On page 3, you see past action. It started the case in April. It was continued to May. In May, it was reviewed by this board, received preliminary approval with conditions. Then it was continued from the May public hearing. This evening, they're asking for final approval. There were 5 conditions attached to the last public hearing. Those conditions are attached to the staff report on page 3, and you can follow along. At this time, briefly, I'm going to go through the photo presentation. I'd like to start with the Sanborn map. The one that I start with is 1929. Property in question is highlighted. It is a corner parcel on the corner of Fremont and Bristol. There is an alley that runs north and south behind the subject site, And when you look at the Sanborn map, it gives us a lot of information. It gives us setback, it gives us some massing in relation to the parcel. It shows the construction type. If you look at what we circled here in the immediate vicinity, you see all the yellow, which indicates frame construction as well. So we use this as a tool on a daily basis. This is our vicinity map. That's current. It shows the structure's type, if it's contributing or non-contributing. Property in question is obviously circled here and highlighted in the green. And you see the proximity to Hyde Park Village. So it's to the west, southwest of Hyde Park Village. And it is indicated as a non-contributing structure on our map because it's not shaded in. And the accessory structure that's there is shaded in, which indicates it as a contributing structure. Also, as part of our photo essay, I like to show the current aerial as well. It shows the tree canopies and it shows the grid that's associated in the immediate vicinity. And if I turn it the right way, I
We can see it
apologize.
even better, yes.
You can understand a little bit better. Just to get you familiar with, this is the non-contributing structure on the site. This will be demoed, and we could do that administratively as they go through the process. So those were the elevations of, this is probably a 60s building. Moving to the contributing accessory structure. It's a two-story accessory structure, has great bones. It relates back to the early 20s when it was built. Very little modifications to the structure. So you see how it's entered from the secondary street here. You see how it's the bays are broken up into two separate bays for the scale and the massing to be consistent. It has the man door on the bottom, as you could go inside here and then up on the outside as well. Some of the context in the vicinity, this is the abutting property to the south, directly across the street to the west. And to conclude the photo presentation, this is to the north. This had the same kind of relationship that the subject site did. They did not have a primary structure here. They had a contributing detached accessory structure. So when they came forward, the accessory structure was respected, and then they built something new that was reviewed and approved by this board. That concludes the photo presentation, and I'll pass it on to the agent at this time.
Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Hanso, and I'm the agent for this project.
Good evening, my name is Mark. I'm the owner of the property.
See if we get that on the screen. Thank you. All right, so what I'll do is I'll go through the required documents first, and then my responses to the staff report. So starting with the site plan, primary structure on the center, the detached accessory structure on the right, and then we're also proposing a breezeway as well between the two structures. Next sheet over is gonna be the exterior elevations, the main facades. We have the north and we have the west elevation. Next sheet over are the other two elevations, which is the back, south, and then the east, left side of the house. Next sheet over are going to be the building sections through several areas of the structure, and I'll detail those out further along. Next sheet over is going to be another building section, and then I also have a section through the covered breezeway as well. Next sheet or more sections, more enlarged, focusing on the window details, the retaining wall sections and details, and then elevations of the windows as well. Next sheet over is another enlarged window detail section. Then we have the material palette, the type of windows that we will be using, an example of the stack bond brick that we'll be using as well, the door hardware, then the entry doors, the type of wall sconces, exterior lighting, and the tongue and groove wood ceiling for the patios, along with the shingle roofing materials. The hardy board soffit panels, and the trim boards as well. And these are the renderings, starting with the west elevation, northwest corner, north elevation, northeast corner again, south elevation showing the breezeway, more closing shots of the breezeway, southeast corner, and then the rear lanai. Okay, and that concludes that. So what I'll do is address the comments that were made from the last presentation, starting with comment number 1, dealing and buildability deficiencies need to be corrected as discussed. Our response is that we refer to updated elevations, building sections, and renderings. Comment number 2, complete wall sections through multiple locations of the building from foundation to roof, including porch details, calling out all materials and details. So what I've done is I updated the site plan. So I included a cross-section through the main entry porch, another cross-section through the secondary entry, a cross-section through this side of the house as well. That's also cutting through what would be the third entryway into the house, and also cuts into the breezeway as well. Comment number 3, include more window details and clarify window types and locations. What I've done here is updated all the windows, so now it more accurately shows the difference between fixed windows and single hung windows. And I've also included enlarged elevations of what would be our 2 prominent window types, and the detailing surrounding the windows. The breezeway, comment number 4, breezeway to be further detailed and clarified in its relationship to the existing contributing structure to be detailed. Since the last presentation, we've gone ahead and just decided to maintain a separation between our proposed breezeway and the detached structure. So we're gonna have it separated by about 4 foot, 4 inches. So that's highlighted in the site plan. And then in this south elevation as well, that's showing all the dimensions and separation between the exterior wall, the accessory structure, and our proposed breezeway. And that's also shown in the rendering at the end. Last comment, gutters, downspouts, accessories, fascia, and relationship between brick and stucco all to be clarified. Starting with the gutters and the downspouts, that's now indicated on the exterior elevations and also shown in the renderings as well. And I spoke to Ron, and then what would be appropriate for this project would be round gutters and round downspouts. And then as far as the relationship between the brick and the stucco, I further detailed those out in the building sections as well. All 3 building sections, and then as well as in the window details as well, showing all the necessary flashing and how all the different materials connect and intersect together. Have anything else?
No.
And that will be the conclusion of my presentation.
Good evening, Commissioners. Ron Vila, I'm a planner with Historic Preservation. Staff's finding that this application is consistent with the conditions from the final approval. He has them on his drawings. His wall section does include the bullet items on page 4, calling out all the exterior materials. He has all the information here, I believe, addressing the 5 conditions from the prior public hearing. I'd like for him to just take a minute and go through each of them independently so that you could ask any questions along that way. He kind of went through them a little rapidly, but the information is here. So if he could go back to the first one, put the document that is supporting his position here, and then if you ask any questions, then you could continue on. That concludes my portion, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. I don't see anybody in the public who's here to comment, so we will bypass that, and we will go to commissioners' questions. I'll start on my right.
Can you put the site plan back up where you've now have the separation between the accessory structure and the, can you zoom in there? Okay. That's all I had. Thank you.
Me, okay. Can you put up the detailed wall sections, please? And this is mainly my concern, not building sections, wall sections. The standards require 3/4 inch wall sections through primary locations. Can you zoom way into this?
Yeah, these are the two I have as far as the sections are concerned with enlarged.
Right, I need you to zoom in. I can't read any of that at this scale, okay? So we're no longer using brick, we're using brick veneer, correct?
Yes,
So there's no brick on the project.
yes,
And there's a limestone cap. How is that attached
that's gonna be directly attached to
to wall? How is it attached
the
to the
wall
wall?
sheeting.
How is it attached?
Oh, through mortar,
Okay, so it's mortar attached to plywood.
correct.
Okay. How is the cement stucco attached?
With the lath.
With lath, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But that's not called out. Can you zoom into the window sill? Zoom in. You can zoom in as far as you can get, okay? Can this actually be built like this?
I believe so, yes.
And I'm asking specifically because it's, one of the concerns we've had all along is that we don't think the building, or our comments are that the building can't be built the way it's detailed, and therefore, it's going to look different when it's actually built, okay? This has a flat water collecting sill, the window's below the stucco. There's no drainage plane from the window to the exterior of the building. And that kind of thing changes the way the building looks. That James Hardy composite trim is not going to be at that location. There's going to be a slope. Right now you have that Hardy trim attached to stucco, and it's all drop dead flat, which is not how it's going to get built. One of our concerns has always been that what's being shown and presented to us is not buildable in these details. And therefore, when it does get built, it's going to look different than this. And so what we're approving is not what's going to happen in the field. And that's been my main concern. I think the majority of our main concerns is that we were not being shown things that are the way it's going to actually get built in the field. Okay, so you can zoom out a little bit from that and go to the soffit, the roof soffit heads. The roof soffits there, okay. What's holding the gutter up?
That is just gonna be, I never dove into that level of detail. I typically just show the gutters and
Okay. Again, can it be built the way you've drawn it?
I've never
And-
had a problem in all the years I've been doing this.
Understood, but we are approving something for you in Hyde Park. Have you ever designed a building in Hyde Park before and come before our board?
Yes, I have, yes.
Okay. what we're seeing here is not what is going to get built. That's not how the gutter is going to get built in that location. First of all, it's way too high. It's going to be lower than that. And there's no bracket holding it up, and what's the spacing of the brackets? Okay, you can zoom out from that and go to the other wall, go down to the bottom. No, on that wall section again, go down to the bottom where the joint between the roof and the brick veneer. Okay. How is the stucco joining the limestone cap? Or abutting the limestone cap?
That's gonna,
If there's a
Sorry.
difference in materials, there's going to be a joint there.
yeah, I think I'm just missing the flashing. I showed in the other one. So we're gonna introduce a base flashing there between where the stucco meets with the limestone cap.
Where are you showing that?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, we have the same issue with the windows here. That's not how the windows are going to get built or installed. You can pan down, please. So there's no weather barrier behind the limestone?
Yes, I'm gonna have a, yes. It's where it says water barrier over APA rated.
Right,
Plywood
but the
sheet.
plywood stops. Plywood stops.
I'm
And
gonna-
then there's
I'm
a
gonna-
piece of limestone sitting there floating with no water barrier
I'm
between
gonna
it
have
and
this
wood
all,
framing.
I'm gonna have all this dried in.
Okay, that's not what's drawn. You can zoom out, please. Can you go to the building sections now? And zoom in as, okay. And I'm gonna just point something out here, is that you have a floor joist that's cantilevered out across the top of a masonry wall, and then some sort of angled roof joist that's attached to it. And I'm not seeing the buildability of that condition there.
So so typically I will have a structural engineer provide me all these interior details. So what I wanted to do was, this is my interpretation, just to get across with the requirement
Okay,
of how this comes together. This is not my expertise as far as how the trusses are gonna be designed.
okay. And again, we're trying to ensure that what you're showing us is actually buildable, so that what we're approving is what's going to be seen when the house is built. And if we have issues with that we're approving something that's not going to get built like that. And that's one of my main concerns. Okay, can you go to the next wall section, please, or building section? And can you zoom into the far right top of that angle, I guess where it says face brick veneer limestone cap, that same detail at the roof. It's just basically one row of brick and a limestone cap at the top of the roof, correct?
Right.
Okay. All right. I guess I don't have any more questions.
I don't have any questions.
Let's see. Go to the breezeway, just zoom into the detailed breezeway, please.
Would you like the rendering, site plan, or?
No, this one's good. to
This one here?
start, please. Okay, and then now will you go back to the renderings? And just to be clear, you didn't change, well, you tell me if you changed anything architecturally on the building.
One of the changes was these caps used to be stucco, cement stucco.
Do me a favor and show me on the renderings,
Oh,
because I'm more interested in
you
the
won't
aesthetic.
really, yeah, you won't see the difference, but
Oh, okay,
in other words, the volume didn't change. It was just the way to build it changed.
gotcha. So like on that rendering, it's brick, it shows up as white, but that's gonna be.
Yeah, it's
brick. Yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of
Okay.
when you zoom out, it's,
Yeah.
see like here, that's a better presentation, but here, I understand, it looks like horizontal siding, but it's not.
I got you. I'm not worried about that. The headers, like on the first floor windows, are those the same size as they were last presentation?
Yes, nothing's
Okay.
changed on the,
All right, that's
other
good.
than adding the gutters.
Got it. Yeah, and now let's look at the downspout locations and the, because I saw that you showed them on the rear. And I just want to just quickly scroll through and make sure we got them all.
Okay,
And I can't see anything at this level of zoom, so, personally.
so here's the downspout number one right here,
Okay,
starting at the top.
got it.
Then there's a second one here on the left. That's the second one. This is the third.
Okay,
There's a fourth.
got it.
That's a closer shot in. And these are some of the back ones. This one for this roof, the second roof here. This one for the lanai, and then this part of the roof as well on the back.
Got it.
And then lastly, the one for the breezeway itself.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, zoom into that one right there. Okay. All right, so you got the separation, you showed that. That looks good. All right.
Is there a wood connection there? What's that white thing on the right-hand side?
This here?
Yeah,
That covers the existing stairs, right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
there already now.
okay.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. All right, you went over all your materials, okay. That's all my questions. Thank you. All right, any other questions?
Do you have a detail from the new structure to the accessory structure on how it is you're gonna get your fire rating between the two dwellings?
No, I don't have a particular, you're probably asking for a section right through this roof overhang to
Yeah.
here. No, I don't have that one. I have it the other direction.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, that's our questions. You have 5 minutes for rebuttal, if you so choose.
I don't really have much of a rebuttal. I think the emphasis should be on the overall exterior look at the building, and I think we're getting caught up into some of the stuff that's not even gonna be visible, such as trusses, basically the interior bones of the house. Additionally, I agree that this is gonna be sloped, but again, that's gonna be such a marginal, no one's gonna notice that small slope from the exterior. That's it, that's all I had to add.
And I was gonna kind of piggyback off that point, and, I understand the concern, you know, what we're displaying, you guys want to be built that way, and we feel the same way as well. And if we run into something where it's not, oh, hey, the gutters have to be changed to be in a different location, we're gonna say, no, like, this is how we want it. It would be just the same to me if they said, hey, you can't have a window there. I'd say, no, this is how we want it, and if you have to do it a certain way, let's do it that way. So it's our concern as well. We appreciate the neighborhood, we know what the neighborhood is, so we know that, you know, it's gotta be right. And that's a major concern for us as well. So, that's why we're honing in on the big stuff, and the little stuff, we want to be on point as well. I just don't know if with the gutters, you know, maybe that'll work itself out when we get to that point, but we will stick to this as much as, we will stick to this, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, full transparency, I reached out to my former boss, which is the person I got my license through under his supervision. Face brick veneer is not something that I typically do, or have a lot of experience with. So I did consult with him as far as the details are concerned, and he did offer me some guidance with that and insight into that. But rest assured, we're gonna build it the right way. And we're gonna get as close to what the exterior renderings look like. That's it.
Thank you very much. Okay, at this point, we are going to close the public hearing, and we will,
Staff, one more question?
Oh.
Clear on it?
go ahead.
Is it possible, is brick veneer, a material allowed in Hyde Park?
Brick veneer is a product that has been approved by this board. We look at a true brick, we look at a brick veneer, as long as it has the corner element, that L bracket, so it appears to be a true brick. What is not acceptable is scored stucco. So the brick veneer has been approved, yes.
Okay, all right, that's all.
Okay. So we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing and begin discussions. Floor is open.
It's always been my concern that, that things weren't buildable. And it concerns me when things are drawn sort of schematically, but not realistically, that what we're approving and what we're seeing and what's rendered is not what's going to actually get built, and it's not going to get built in that configuration and that proportion and that scale. And that's just been a concern since this project came in front of us. And I'm still not happy with the level of detail, the size of things that and I understand the applicant says it's really not, it doesn't mean anything because it doesn't affect the exterior appearance. But it concerns me when, things aren't shown and drawn the way I know they get built. Because there's going to be caulk joints everywhere. There's going to be, between dissimilar materials, it's not just going to be a piece of flashing. There's going to be a big fat caulk joint there because those materials expand and contract at different rates and at different dimensions. And that's going to change the way the building looks. So I'm still not satisfied personally with the level of detail that we have been used to seeing, and that I've been used to presenting to this board for the past 20 years of what needs to be shown to get board approval.
Yeah, I would reflect those comments in that the drawings that were presented as a contractor, I would never build them that way. There would be water intrusion issues, there'd be all kinds of problems. So in turn, I would have to alter the way it was built, which in turn would make it look differently. I also have a concern that the separation between the two buildings is not to code, but I don't know if they can get a building permit with that, so I'm not too worried about that.
The roof overhangs are too close.
Right, exactly, so they're gonna be, we have issues with that as well, but.
But yeah, we're not doing permitting thing.
Right, yeah.
He can't do it.
Right.
The way it's drawn.
Right.
But that furthers my concern, is that a lot of things can't be done the way they're drawn. Which just concerns me.
So I have a question about that separation. Does it have to have a separation? Does it?
If there's a separation between two buildings or two units, it has to be at least 5 foot, or it has to have that 1 hour burn rate between the two, which is why I asked for were the materials there, and they didn't have those materials spec'd.
And you can connect them, but it can't be connected with a building.
Yeah.
Well, once you connect those buildings, then the code and the zoning, the setbacks
Yeah, I mean,
change.
again,
It changed all kinds of things.
It's a permitting thing.
Right,
and-
yeah,
and-
the zoning
and a
thing, yeah.
Fire marshal thing, and
Right.
whether or not that breezeway is considered part of the main house or not considered part of the main house, whether it's attached to the main house, we don't have those details. We don't know.
Right.
He's going to have to make that evaluation. And does that come too close to the, is it part of the building?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it an open breezeway which doesn't become part of the building?
Yeah, right, yeah.
not the permitting expert here, and that's none of our, it's not our concern.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so my opinion on the detailing is, I get the intent. You know, whether the sill is over, I mean, we know how it will be built. And my opinion is that it's not gonna change the way it looks. It's a detail that is minor. I can understand how it's gonna be executed, and that's not gonna change what these renderings look like. So, from my point of view, yeah, it'd be nice if it were detailed that way, but I don't think it is going to change the way this looks. I can understand where there's going to be caulk joints, and I can see that, you know, in these renderings. So I don't have an issue with that.
Yeah, I concur. I think there's a level of frustration because this project and other projects have come before us recently that have been so loose, it puts us in a difficult position. But I think the applicant has worked diligently to get it to a point where I believe there's a product that satisfies everything we've asked.
Yeah.
And while the detailing may not be 100%, I don't think it fundamentally changes anything that would be a worrisome to a design guideline.
Yeah, I think the applicant has taken the advice that we've given over the last, and staff has given, and has executed that. So I think as a whole, that it's made strides to get it where we wanted it to be.
I have concerns when the guys are out in the field and the gutters now are shown at one level, and then all of a sudden they gotta drop down 2 inches because the brackets aren't right. How does that change the look?
I guess the question is, well, number one is I don't think I remember a gutter detail that was any more detailed than that. That's come before us first. Second of all, I don't think fundamentally, if it's 2 inches lower, unless you're looking at it, or looking for it.
And to me, it's not that one thing, or this one thing, or this one thing. It's the accumulation
I understand.
of all these things that aren't real.
But is there,
And it's spread, but we don't know. That's what I'm saying. I don't, personally, I can't tell you that, is this beam that's across here, this column and this beam across the porch here, going to be able to be built the way it's shown in the rendering? Or is it gonna have to be twice as deep, or that kind of thing?
Well-
So it's my frustration. I know what I'm used to seeing as a board member. I know what I'm used to presenting
Yeah.
as an applicant to the board to prove that what I'm drawing is accurate and precise. And that's my only, it's been my concern on this particular house. It's been my concern from the first presentation.
I understand. Mr. Beal.
If I may. You know, he's provided you with multiple renderings and elevations to get his point across that the anticipation of how this building is going to be constructed. There's some construction deficiencies moving forward. That's for him to resolve those deficiencies and to build it like it is. If there's substantial changes during construction that is not consistent with the drawings that may or may not be approved today, then it will have to come back. I think, as we all know, during construction, there's changes along the way. There's gonna be some changes. So as staff, we review those changes and see if they're substantial or not. So there's gonna be minor changes. I hear everybody here, this gentleman's been here a couple of times to try to get his point across to provide the additional information. I think he's heard it loud and clear as the owner that it shall be constructed or the images that are portrayed need to be reflected in the field. Any modification to that will be scrutinized.
Yeah. Again, I mean, there's nothing that I see that is gonna hold me up from saying yes to this. I think it's, as I said before, I can understand how it's gonna be executed. Whether it's, you know, a beam size, I mean, we never, you know, you don't know ever, right? Whether a beam size, unless it is gonna be correct, unless it's just, you know, obvious that it's not gonna work. I have a feeling a structural engineer can make this work.
And just hearing from Ron, just the onus will have to be put on staff to make sure that they build it the way that it looks. And, I
Well,
mean, which is their job to begin with.
Well, and
Yeah.
that's every project.
Right,
So-
yeah, but this one's gonna be a little more hands-on for them.
Yeah, and it sounds like staff is up for the challenge.
Sure.
They
I
always
would
are.
say. Yeah.
So does it, is there a motion floating around? Just ask.
Hang on. I move to grant a certificate of appropriateness for the drawings and documents presented at the public hearing in ARC 25-0000155 for the property located at 1806 West Bristol Avenue, because based upon the finding of fact, the proposed project is consistent with the design guidelines of the city of Tampa for the following reasons. Ooh. Wow, this is the first time I've done this. Help me out here.
That it, I might suggest that it satisfies scale and proportion and has,
I'm not hoping.
scale and proportion, within the, as laid out in the guidelines and has satisfied the deficiencies noted in previous meetings.
Okay. For the following reasons, that it satisfies the scale and proportions as laid out in the guidelines, and that it has satisfied the conditions that were presented at the last meeting.
Okay. Do I see a second? Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a second, so we have an opportunity for discussion.
And just to add one quick thing to the motion, just specifying the Hyde Park design guidelines.
Sorry.
No
Okay.
problem. No, you're fine. I
Okay.
just want to add that.
Just so noted. Any other discussion?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so we have a motion on the floor to give final approval. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All against? One? Opposed. All right, motion passes. Congratulations. Looking forward to a nice project. Let's see, all right, and I think that's the end of our agenda, so I'm looking for a motion to receive and file submitted documents and exhibits.
I move that we receive and file all submitted documents and exhibits.
I'll second.
We have a second. All right, no discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion passes, and this meeting is adjourned.